What is up, all of my lemons and root sellers out there? Today we are going to be ranking different countries' coastlines, part 3. Last time when we left off with this series, I had a cringy mic, nar background echo, and an almanac of passion fruit varieties that I found on the bus. That's just a joke. Nobody actually has that. I just put a bunch of words together and hoped they sounded funny, which they didn't. I'm going to be pronouncing all the foreign words in this video 100% correctly. Hey, should I do that? Is that a good idea?
No, that's an awful idea.
Okay, I'm being advised not to do that. Okay, looks like that's a bad idea. Alright, who's ready to rock and roll? Now this cat here is Uganda. It's a country in East Africa, and you might already see the deviation. They don't border the sea, they border a lake. Granted, it's a pretty large lake that's relatively close to a sea. I mean, it's like 27,000 miles in land area, which is even larger than Lake Huron, the largest Great Lake in North America, by an extra surplus of 4,000 miles. I'm including it because they have a port like 99% of every other country. You can build a port anywhere there's water, whether it be the ocean, a sea, a lake, a river, heck, even a pond. Build a little dry dock on your uncle's summer home pond, boom, you got yourself a port there. Speaking of which, Uganda's main port is Port Bell, located in their capital along Lake Victoria. I couldn't find the population, I'm sorry. Their capital is Kampala, in the same area as the port, population 1.5 million. Uganda controls about 12,000 miles of the lake's area, not just the coastline length. Uganda has a land area itself of around 93,000 square miles. I would say their proportion is good because they border multiple smaller lakes, and Uganda in and of itself is relatively small enough, so yepers. Shape is also good because Lake Victoria's coastlines are jagged and islandy, so there's a lot of really choice locations for ports to be built here. We talked about this last time with Cambodia and their natural harbor. It's the same thing here, but just on a smaller scale. As for location, well, it's a bit more complicated. For you see, much of Uganda's population lives along Lake V, but the two other neighboring countries also share the lake, Kenya and Tanzania. These two also have a lot of people that live by the lake, however. Uganda has more than Tanzania, but not as much as Kenya. I would award Uganda a 6.8 out of 10. Does Northern Europe have the worst ports in the world? No. Does Northern Europe have the best ports in the world? Yes. That is a joke. I repeat, you have found the joke. Germany is a country that needs no introduction. It's a country in Europe, specifically the north. No, the center. No, not even that. The west. Wait, what direction is Germany in? Look, they're anywhere in Europe except for the south and the east. Make up your own minds. What do I look like, a geography channel? Yes. They border the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, so that might harm the score a bit. Germany's main seaport is Hamburg, and that's a bit odd considering Hamburg is located in the north of the country and is situated decently inland. It connects to the sea from the Elbe River. Elbe? I'm not sure. I don't know how German pronunciation works. I'm a Yankee dog, okay? Which flows through the city. It's not super far from the sea, but it's sort of strange. Their seaport isn't, by the sea. Hamburg's population is around 1.9 million. I suppose being by a river isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's sort of Germany's only gateway to the wider world, so I would expect it to be like Bremerhaven, but it's not. Their capital is Berlin in the east of the country, population 3.6 million. Old Deutschland's coastline length is 1.5 thousand square miles, and their total land area is around 140,000 square miles. Proportion is good, not much to say except it's an appropriate size and they have coasts along two different bodies of water as mentioned before, the North Sea and the Baltic Sea. Shape is a bit weird and also explains why their ports are mostly inland along rivers. because much of their main quote-unquote raw coast is situated behind mushy and low-elevation barrier islands, which are not ideal for building anything on, let alone high-intensity traffic ports for half of Europe. Their other coastline along the Baltic fares better, having relatively little barrier islands, but unfortunately, the Baltic Sea is self-enclosed and doesn't go to the outside world except to the North Sea, but then we're back to where we started at, aren't we? So shape gets a maybe from me. Finally, we have ourselves the location. Location is also going to be a maybe because they just don't have access to the Atlantic as much as other countries do, just like Italy from the other video. At any point, the UK and Norway could blockade the North Sea and trap in Germany like a big bathtub. Sweden and Denmark can also blockade the Baltic, and the UK and France can blockade the English Channel, but really any kid with a pail of sand can do that. We exploited this strategy in both world wars, but Germany doesn't need to worry about that right now since they've been nerfed from the bad guys into the cool dudes. Given their enormous economic strength, I'll cut them some slack, 8.4 out of 10. Unless you're somewhat of a geography whiz, Eritrea likely isn't a name you're turbo familiar with. Didn't waste any time. Eritrea is a small and lanky country in eastern Africa, and some may say North Africa, but let's not fadoodle ourselves here. Their main seaport is typically Massawa here, with a population of around 54,000. Eritrea's capital is Asmara, located in the desert highlands in the north, population 963,000-ish. Their coastline, including the Webby Islands off the coast, is 1,388 miles long, entirely along the Red Sea. Their land area is nearly 45,400 square miles, or a bit bigger than the state of Ohio for our American viewers, or a bit bigger than Bulgaria for our European viewers. On to the breakdown. Proportion is a tad iffy since most people in the country live in and around the capital, Asmara. It seems like the coastline slid right on down along the coast and blocked off Ethiopia from having access to the sea, which is a bit mean in my opinion. Croatia, I'm looking at you. Plus, most people live in and around the upper head bulb part, so the long coast seems wildly excessive. If it was a coastal country like China, for example, where everyone lives along the coast, that's one thing. But it ain't. Proportion gets a maybe. Now, as for the shape, well, that's a whole other story. It has a little bit of everything, from smooth, flat, and plain Jane in the north to serrated and rigid in the south. There's also pockety islands as well that they own, but not many people live on them, so it doesn't really matter as much. Shape gets a good rating. Location also gets an because none of their ports really have any super important geopolitical location. That's about it. Sorry, Eritrea, but there's not much else I can cover with you without repeating myself. Go invade Djibouti and capture their ports, then we'll talk. 5.9 out of 10. Done. Here's yet another one most people haven't a clue over. Timor-Leste, or in non-Portuguese, East Timor, meaning the east half of the island of Timor, the west half being owned by Indonesia. It's in Southeast Asia, part of the Malay archipelago. Their main port is also their capital, Dilly. Is it Dilly? Dilly? I'm unsure. If any of you dudes or dudettes speak Portuguese, drop a comment telling me. You guys would know. The city has a population of 222,000, and they have a coastal length of 440 miles, mostly along the Timor Sea. Timor-Leste has a land area of around 5,800 square miles, and if you ask me, they should own the whole island of Timor. Indonesia, you're about 129 times larger. You can spare one island. Come on. I'm sorry, you guys want to continue? Anywho, the proportion is fine, I suppose. I mean, they don't have a lot of land, but their coastline is pretty big for their size. But I'll excuse it because the country should use what it gets. Shape for me is also good. The bay that Dilly is on the shoreline of admittedly does look pretty wholesome 100. The I'm sorry, I'll never say that again. There just aren't any unnecessary barrier islands, it's just a nice round bay with a seaport. I came into this one wary, but I'm pleasantly surprised by you, East Timor. Unfortunately, the location is an It's just not in a very important area. Indonesia, up north for example, is in an extremely important area for numerous reasons. Despite both of these two countries being in the same exact region, East Timor has been knocked off the totem pole simply because they're smaller and don't cover a vast area. 5.8 out of 10. Also, I kept flip-flopping between saying Timor and Timor because I don't know how you say it. So there, none of you guys can blame me. I'm going to make this one quick because it's approximately late o'clock in American time. American time is not a real time zone. I repeat, it is not a real time zone. Suriname is a country in North-South America. Okay, let's back that up. The northern coast of South America, and they don't speak Spanish, they speak Dutch. Their main port is also their capital, Paramaribo. The city has a population of around 241,000 people, and Suriname has a coastal length of close to 240 miles, or the distance of about Great Yarmouth to Caen. It's along the Atlantic Ocean, by the way. Suriname has a land area of around 63,000 square miles, or in my made-up portmanteau, squiles. The proportion is good. I really have nothing to say about it, you dig? The shape is also good because they have a smooth, flattened coastline. Also, most everyone in the country lives around the Suriname River, conveniently where their capital and port are. Lastly, the location is an however, because it's just not a useful area. However, they have a clear, straight shot into the Atlantic, so it's not all bad. 6.4 out of 10. That's more than a lot of countries can say.